My brother, Danny, has been in Nigeria for the last 8 years, been involved in Christian education, and he certainly made a big difference in the lives of many people over there. It's been a long time since Danny and I played together in the rolling hills of Roe Gully with Ralph and George McCain, Joe Linscomb, David Cobb, and a lot of other people. We really used to know those woods, that red clay hill, the gravel pit. It'd be interesting to see if all the things that we wrote on the trees there are still there. I hope some of the things are still not there. We do have a lot of memories from our childhood, have a lot of memories since our childhood. Danny would like to give a tribute to our parents and share in some of those memories. Danny?
July the 1st, 1996 is a very special day in the McCain family. It's a day that few married couples will ever enjoy. To get to this day demands a lot of commitment, perseverance, forgiveness, love, and a little bit of good fortune. We're grateful to God that we're all here able to celebrate our parents' 50th wedding anniversary. The celebration of this day actually began almost 70 years ago in Lena, Louisiana, where Daddy was born to William and Ida McCain. He grew up in a family of 5 in the Depression, when Papa cut timber and crossed ties to make ends meet. And Daddy's already told you how poor they were. They were poor as Job's turkey. And as he said, they had to wait for the chickens to lay the eggs to have enough to eat or eat breakfast. Daddy grew up and cut a few cross ties of his own before joining the Navy to go defend his country. He served with distinction in the Pacific Theater aboard the aircraft carrier USS Tacanis Bay. After the war, he returned to central Louisiana, where he worked at various construction jobs until meeting Mama. The other place the celebration began, almost 70 years ago, was on Roe Gully. Just a few months later, when this pretty little baby was born to William and Artie Davenport. There were so many children and so few names left that they wound up naming her Georgie Lula. Mama later found out that the woman she was named after was her grandmother, who was named Tennessee Lula. And after that, she was grateful for the name Lula. Georgia, Tennessee sounds like a coalition of southern states. She was a bright young girl who grew up picking cotton and shelling peas and playing jokes on her many sisters, as we've already heard. She graduated from Talca High School, and later she got a job working as a telephone operator. Now, this was in the days when operators participated in all telephone calls. And back in those days, Mama wasn't quite as good a Christian as she is today. And she reports that she used to eavesdrop on some of her friends' conversations. And she even called and hooked up 2 of her friends and listened to them arguing over who called who. Mama was living in Pineville with one of her sisters when Daddy returned from the war. One day, his sister Nell pointed out this pretty young lady who had bandages all over because she'd been in an automobile accident, and said, "Carl, you ought to get to know her." Daddy's initial comment was, "That? I'm not that hard up." Later, Daddy tried to reach her by the telephone, and they first talked on the telephone. The first date was to a place Mama don't like to disclose. Sometime during their early courtship, Daddy tried to impress Mama by saying, "Why don't you give me a call sometime?" She says, "Well, I would be delighted. What is your telephone number?" So Daddy gave her the telephone number, and she said, "Well, that's my telephone number." They lived about 2 blocks apart, and they both shared the same neighbor's telephone. After, as we heard tonight, a rather short 2.5 month courting, Daddy asked her to marry him. The next day, Mama went to town to pick out and to buy her wedding dress. And she bought her wedding dress, and as she came out of the store, she met Daddy. And Daddy said, "Oh, what do you have there? Wedding dress. Oh, that's right, we need to get married." Daddy is kind of an impulsive fella, and he doesn't have any problem making decisions, so he said, why don't we get married immediately? Mama says, "What do you mean by immediately?" He said, "How about today? How about right now?" So he grabbed her by the hand, and they went to the justice of the peace, and they got married with Mama's wedding dress under her arm. The other part of that story is, Daddy walked 3 blocks to get change for a $5 bill so he wouldn't have to pay the justice of the peace but $3. All families have disagreements and misunderstandings, including the McCain family. However, it is the I got a page missing here. You're showing up. After they got married, they lived 2 years in Pineville before moving to Roe Gully. And then in 1951, they moved to where we live now. As we said, most families have a lot of harmony, and ours certainly did. Mama can only remember one time when they had a separation. Her side of this is her side of the story. Daddy couldn't correct to give you his version. But she was in town one day, and she met one of the fellows that Daddy worked with at the telephone company. And he greeted her, and she greeted back, and they exchanged a few words. And later, when Daddy heard that she had met this man, he accused her of flirting with other men. Mama didn't like that, and she said to him, she says, "If you think I'm going to be married to a man who is this jealous for the rest of my life, you are just crazy." And she turned around and stomped off. Well, Daddy turned around and stomped off too, the other direction. Mama got about 2 blocks away, and she got to thinking, well, she is married, and she ought to be forgiving, and besides, she didn't have any place to go. So she turned around and started walking back. As she walked around the corner, there was Daddy coming. She looked at him and she said, "If you think I'm going back to the house, you're crazy." He said, "If you think I was coming to look for you, you're crazy." But neither one of them were very good liars, so their total first and last separation lasted a total of about 15 minutes.